Alien classmate mocked me. Now she's not leaving my bed. The Tormentor's game. Marcus Chen had learned to make himself small. At Celestial Heights Academy, where humans mixed with dozens of alien species in the rotating halls of humanity's most prestigious orbital institution, being small meant being safe. Being invisible meant surviving. Zephyr Kane had other ideas. Look everyone, the Earthling thinks he can match my combat speed. Her voice rang through the training hall, musical and cutting. She moved like liquid mercury, her silver-blue skin catching the artificial sunlight as she effortlessly disarmed him for the third time that session. Her dark eyes, pupils like vertical slits, gleamed with amusement as Marcus hit the mat again. The other students laughed. Some out of genuine amusement, others because when Zephyr Kane targeted someone, you laughed or became the next target. Marcus picked himself up, jaw tight, and retrieved his practice blade. 2 years. 2 years of this. He'd scored top marks in every theoretical class, mastered 4 alien languages, and earned his scholarship 3 times over. None of it mattered when Zephyr decided to make him her personal entertainment. She was breathtaking in the worst way, tall and athletic, with geometric patterns that glowed faintly beneath her skin when she moved. On Voraxis, those patterns marked warrior caste, and she wore her heritage like a crown. Her hair, deep indigo and cut sharp at her shoulders, swayed as she circled him like a predator. Again, Instructor Vogt rumbled, their crystalline form refracting light impatiently. Marcus raised his blade. Zephyr's smile widened, showing teeth just slightly too sharp to be human. In that moment, Marcus hated her with a purity that surprised him. Hated her grace, her confidence, her casual cruelty. He didn't know that in 72 hours, everything would change. He didn't know that the mandatory Soul Bridge assignment, announced at the end of class, would bind their minds in ways neither could escape. When Instructor Vogt read the random pairings and called their names together, Zephyr's triumphant laugh echoed through the hall. Marcus's blood ran cold. The unveiled truth. The Soul Bridge chamber hummed with energy, needles of light dancing across curved walls. Marcus sat rigid in one chair while Zephyr lounged in hers across from him, that infuriating smirk still playing at her lips. "Try not to bore me to death with your human mediocrity," she drawled as the technicians attached the neural connectors to their temples. Marcus said nothing. He'd stopped responding to her taunts months ago. The countdown began. 3, 2, 1. The world exploded into sensation. Suddenly Marcus wasn't Marcus anymore. He was inside Zephyr's mind, drowning in her memories. He felt the crushing weight of expectation from her first conscious moment, the Voraxis warrior creed beaten into her before she could walk, the brutal training that left scars she hid beneath her uniform, the sister who'd been executed for showing mercy in combat. He felt her terror, constant, gnawing terror, that any sign of weakness would mean death or disgrace. And beneath it all, he felt her targeting him, the way she'd chosen the quiet scholarship human specifically because he was safe to hurt, because nobody would care, because causing him pain was the only outlet for the agony she carried every single day. The shame that flooded through her, through them both, was nauseating. But Zephyr was drowning too. She crashed through Marcus's memories like a tidal wave, seeing everything he'd buried, the nights he'd cried silently into his pillow after her public humiliations, the way he taught himself Voraxis language just to understand what her friends said about him, the hours spent in the library proving himself worthy while everyone else made friends. She felt his loneliness like a knife, and worse, she felt his fundamental kindness, the way he helped younger students struggling with coursework, the way he still held doors for people who never thanked him. She saw that he'd never once retaliated against her cruelty. Not because he was weak, but because he refused to become what hurt him. The 3 days passed in a blur of shared consciousness. They couldn't escape each other, every thought, every feeling, every hidden wound laid bare. When Zephyr tried to retreat into her warrior's pride, Marcus felt the fragile girl beneath it trembling. When Marcus tried to hide his pain, Zephyr experienced exactly how deeply she'd cut him. By the time the technicians disconnected them on the 3rd day, both were shaking. Zephyr's patterns had gone dim, and tears tracked down her face, the first tears she'd shed in a decade. Marcus stared at her, seeing not his tormentor but a prisoner of her own culture, breaking under pressure she'd never asked for. She fled the chamber without a word. But the connection had changed everything neither could ignore. The midnight confession. Marcus couldn't sleep. His tiny dormitory felt suffocating, the walls pressing in as his mind replayed fragments of Zephyr's memories. The fear. The pain. The desperate, drowning need to feel anything other than numb. At 2:47 a.m., someone knocked on his door. He opened it to find Zephyr standing in the corridor, still wearing her academy uniform but rumpled, as if she'd been walking for hours. Her patterns barely glowed, and her eyes, those sharp, predatory eyes, looked lost. "I can't go back there," she whispered. Her voice cracked. "To my room. To pretending." "I can't." She pressed a hand to her chest, struggling for breath. "You felt it. You know what it's like in my head now." Marcus should have closed the door. Should have protected himself. Instead, he stepped aside. Zephyra entered like someone seeking sanctuary, her usual grace abandoned. She stood in the center of his small room, arms wrapped around herself, looking more vulnerable than he'd ever imagined possible. "I'm sorry." The words tumbled out. "I'm sorry for every cruel thing, every humiliation, Her voice broke completely. "I saw how much I hurt you. I felt it. And you never struck back. You never tried to destroy me even when I gave you every reason." Marcus closed the door, his heart hammering. "Why did you come here?" "Because you're the only person who knows the truth now." Tears spilled down her cheeks, glowing faintly where they tracked through her patterns. "Everyone else sees the warrior. The untouchable Cain heir. But you've been inside my head. You know I'm terrified every single moment. You know I'm breaking." She took a step closer, then another, until she stood directly in front of him. This close, he could see her trembling. "I don't deserve forgiveness," she breathed. "But I'm asking anyway. Can I stay? Just tonight? I promise I'll leave in the morning if you want, but right now I can't face being alone with what I've done." Marcus knew this was madness. Knew he should protect himself from further pain. But the soul bridge had shown him everything, including this. Zephyra had never felt safe anywhere in her entire life. "Okay," he heard himself say. "You can stay." The relief that flooded her face nearly broke him. She moved to his narrow bed and sat on the edge, looking small despite her height. Marcus grabbed an extra blanket, intending to sleep on the floor, but Zephyra caught his wrist. "Please don't make me sleep alone," she whispered. So Marcus lay down beside his former tormentor, maintaining careful distance. But within minutes, Zephyra shifted closer, resting her forehead against his shoulder. Her skin was warm, almost feverish. "Thank you," she murmured into the darkness. Neither of them expected her to still be there when morning came. Learning to trust. Morning sunlight filtered through the viewport, painting silver stripes across tangled sheets. Marcus woke to find Zephyra still curled against him, one arm draped across his chest, breathing slowly. Her patterns pulsed with a soft, steady glow he'd never seen before, peaceful, almost content. When her eyes opened, she didn't pull away. "I meant to leave before you woke up," she admitted quietly. "But I couldn't." "Why not?" "Because for the first time in my life, I felt safe." Her fingers traced absent patterns on his sleeve. "My biorhythms, they've stabilized. The constant anxiety, the hypervigilance, it's quieter when I'm near you." It was a thin excuse, and they both knew it. But Marcus didn't challenge her. "Stay for breakfast then." That day turned into the next, and the next. Zephyra brought her study materials to his room, claiming the library was too crowded. She borrowed his oversized academy jacket, the sleeves swallowing her hands, and refused to give it back. At night, she'd curl up beside him, sometimes talking for hours about Varaxis, not the warrior culture, but the things she loved, the singing crystal caves, the poetry her grandmother had secretly taught her, the small rebellions of beauty in a society obsessed with strength. Marcus found himself sharing too. His childhood dreams of exploring the stars, his mother's recipes he tried to recreate in the station's limited kitchen, the way he'd felt invisible his entire life until the soul bridge forced someone to truly see him. "You were never invisible," Zephyra murmured one evening, her head resting on his lap as he studied. "I saw you from the first day. That's why I—" She trailed off, shame crossing her features. Why you targeted me? I told myself you were weak. But really, you terrified me. You had something I'd never possessed, genuine goodness. And I hated you for it because it reminded me of everything my culture had beaten out of me. Her hand found his, fingers intertwining carefully. I'm still learning how to be gentle. How to trust that softness isn't weakness. Marcus brushed his thumb across her knuckles. You're doing better than you think. The academy noticed, of course. Whispers followed them through corridors. The warrior princess who'd abandoned her elite quarters, the human nobody who'd somehow tamed her. Zephyra's friends tried to intervene once, confronting her in the cafeteria about her disgraceful behavior. Zephyra's patterns flared bright, aggressive, as she stood. But instead of the violent response they expected, she simply took Marcus's hand. He's worth more than all of you combined, she said clearly. And if you have a problem with that, you're welcome to challenge me in the combat ring. No one took her up on the offer. That night, Zephyra made terrible earth coffee, too strong and slightly burnt, and presented it to Marcus with such hopeful pride that he drank every drop. She laughed when he grimaced, a real laugh, free and unguarded. I'm trying, she said softly, settling into his arms on the narrow bed that had become theirs. To be someone worthy of this. Of you. Marcus kissed her forehead, feeling her patterns warm beneath his lips. You already are. Outside, the stars wheeled through the viewport, indifferent to the miracle happening in one small room. Two broken people learning that healing could be a choice you made together every single day. The choice to stay. Graduation approached like a deadline neither wanted to face. Zephyra was expected to return to Voraxis, to take her place in the warrior elite. Marcus had accepted a research position on a deep space station near Earth's solar system. Their paths were meant to diverge. Come with me, Marcus said one night, the words escaping before he could stop them. To the research station. They're always looking for combat specialists for security detail. You could. Yes. Zephyra didn't hesitate. Wherever you go, I go. Your family will disown you. The Voraxis Council can execute me for all I care. She cupped his face in her hands, her patterns blazing bright with emotion. I spent 20 years being who they wanted. Let me spend the rest of my life being who I choose. With you. The declaration went public 3 days before graduation. Zephyra Kane, heir to one of Voraxis's most prestigious warrior lines, formally requested asylum through Earth's diplomatic channels and renounced her claim to her family's legacy. The scandal rippled through the academy, through diplomatic channels, through the entire sector. Her family's response came swiftly. She was dead to them. Her name would be struck from the records. She would never set foot on Voraxis soil again. Marcus found her sitting at the viewport that evening, staring out at the stars with dry eyes. Having second thoughts, he asked gently. Not even one. She pulled him down beside her, tucking herself against his side. They took everything from me long before I gave it back. But you, her voice softened, you gave me something I'd never had. A choice. A home that doesn't demand I bleed for it. On graduation day, they walked across the stage hand in hand, Zephyra's patterns glowing defiantly as murmurs swept through the crowd. In the traditional photo, she stood pressed against Marcus's side, her expression fierce and protective, while he smiled quietly, no longer the invisible scholarship student, but someone worth defending. Their small quarters on the research station became a sanctuary. Zephyra taught combat classes to security staff and discovered she loved teaching without cruelty. Marcus's research flourished with her steady presence grounding him. Some nights, they'd lie tangled together, tracing patterns on each other's skin and marveling at the impossible journey from hatred to this profound tenderness neither had known they were capable of. Do you ever regret it? Marcus asked one night. Everything you gave up. Zephyra pressed a kiss to his jaw, then his lips, slow and deliberate. I gave up a prison. You gave me a life. Her eyes met his, no longer cold or mocking, but warm with absolute certainty. You're my home now, Marcus Chen. The only one I'll ever need. Outside their viewport, Earth hung like a blue marble in the velvet darkness, a new beginning for the warrior who'd learned that strength could be gentle, and the boy who discovered that the deepest wounds could transform into the most profound love. Lessons. Cruelty often masks pain, and understanding can transform even our deepest enemies into our greatest loves. True strength lies not in the armor we wear, but in the vulnerability we dare to show those who've earned our trust. Home is not a place or a bloodline, but the person who sees all your broken pieces and chooses to stay anyway. Sometimes the most courageous act is not fighting back, but choosing to heal together instead of remaining wounded apart.